I found out my wife was having an affair when police showed me a sex video during an assault investigation. Not from her confession. Not from catching them together. From two detectives in an interrogation room who thought I might have beaten her lover nearly to death. Before I tell you how I discovered my wife's 2-year drug addiction, how my dead uncle's prenup saved me from losing everything, and how my son's first words after learning the truth were, "Please don't let mommy take me away," drop a comment right now and tell me, where are you watching from? The call came on a Tuesday evening. 5:47 p.m. I was leaving the construction site where I'd been overseeing a commercial renovation project. My phone buzzed. Local police department. I answered immediately, heart already accelerating. Mr. Harrison? This is Detective Morrison with the city police. We need you to come to the station as soon as possible. It's urgent. The world tilted. Did something happen to my wife? My son? Sir, just get here. We'll explain everything. I ran to my truck. Drove 15 over the speed limit the entire way, running through every parent's worst nightmare. Car accident. School shooting. Home invasion. Something terrible had happened to Jennifer or Ethan, and they weren't telling me because it was too awful to say over the phone. The police station's fluorescent lights were too bright. Everything felt surreal. When I walked through those doors, I had no idea my entire life was about to detonate in ways I couldn't imagine. They put me in an interrogation room. Gray walls. Metal table. 2 uncomfortable chairs. And I thought, why am I in an interrogation room if my family is safe? 2 detectives entered. One older, maybe 55, with tired eyes. One younger, maybe 30, with an intensity that made me nervous. The older one sat across from me. Mr. Harrison, can you state your full name for the record? Marcus James Harrison. What's this about? Where's my family? We'll get to that. First, we need to ask you about someone. Derek Mitchell. How well do you know him? Derek Mitchell. The name sounded familiar but I couldn't place it immediately. Then I remembered, Jennifer's hotel. He was her manager or supervisor or something. I'd met him maybe twice total. Barely. He works with my wife. I met him at her Christmas party last December. And once when I picked her up from work. Why? The detectives exchanged a look. Something passed between them I couldn't read. How long have you known? The younger detective asked. Known what? When did you find out? Find out what? I don't understand what you're asking me. For 2 hours, I watched the clock on the wall. They kept circling back to these same questions. How long have you known? When did you find out? Where were you Monday morning between 2 and 6 a.m.? Every time I asked about Jennifer and Ethan, they deflected. Changed the subject. Asked another question about Derek Mitchell, a man I'd spoken to for maybe 10 total minutes in my entire life. They would periodically leave the room. 15 minutes. 20 minutes. Then come back and start the whole thing over again. Like some cheap cop show where they're trying to break a suspect. But I wasn't a suspect. Was I? The clock showed 8:03 when they left for the 3rd time. I sat alone in that gray room for 25 minutes. My hands were shaking. My mouth was dry. I had no idea what was happening, but every minute that passed made the dread in my stomach grow heavier. When they came back, the older detective was carrying a tablet. The look on his face, careful neutrality masking something darker, told me everything was about to change. He slid the tablet across the metal table. Mr. Harrison, we need you to watch this. I looked down at the screen. Video footage. Hotel hallway. Security camera quality. The timestamp in the corner said 3 weeks ago. I watched a woman unlock a hotel room door. The woman was my wife. A man followed her in. The man was Derek Mitchell. The footage cut to an interior view. And I realized with horror that this must have been from his laptop, synced to the hotel's security system somehow. What I saw next, what I watched on that tablet in that interrogation room, was my wife of 12 years having sex with another man. I don't remember the exact words I screamed. I just remember I couldn't stop screaming. What the F is this? What the F is this? Over and over. My hands were shaking so violently I knocked the tablet off the table. The younger detective caught it. The room spun. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe properly. Everything felt too bright and too dark at the same time. The timestamp. 3 weeks ago. How many times had there been? How many videos? How many lies? They called a paramedic. I remember that part. Someone in a uniform checking my pulse, wrapping something around my arm. Blood pressure cuff. The squeeze and release. Sir, your blood pressure is 170/110. You need to go to the hospital. This is dangerously high. I need my son. Where's my son? Sir, hospital. Where is my son? I was shouting again. Couldn't help it. Is he safe? Where's my wife? The older detective put his hand on my shoulder. Firm but not aggressive. Mr. Harrison, your son is safe. He's at your neighbor's house. Sandra Kowalski. We checked before we called you in. That snapped something into focus. How do you know where my son is? Why did you check on him before you called me? The detectives exchanged another look. The paramedic was still trying to get me to agree to go to the hospital. I refused. Over and over. Finally he made me sign something acknowledging I was leaving against medical advice. When my breathing had slowed enough that the paramedic cleared me to leave, barely, the detective said, Mr. Harrison, before you go, we need to explain why we showed you that video. I stared at him. Waiting. Derek Mitchell was found this morning at 6:47 a.m. in his driveway. He'd been severely beaten, violated, and burnt. He's alive, but he's in critical condition. The doctors aren't sure if he's going to make it. The words didn't make sense at first. My brain couldn't process them. Derek Mitchell. Beaten. Violated. Burnt. The man in the video with my wife. We received an anonymous email yesterday with an encrypted file. Inside was a complete backup of Derek Mitchell's cloud storage. 53 videos, Mr. Harrison. 53 videos over 8 months. Your wife. And several other women. 8 months. 53 videos. The numbers felt impossibly large. When we ran Derek Mitchell through our system, we found an extensive criminal record. Gang affiliations. Drug trafficking. Multiple assaults. He's currently on parole. The younger detective pulled out a folder. When we printed his arrest record, the printer ran for 5 minutes straight. This is not a good person your wife was involved with. I sat there trying to make sense of what they were telling me. My wife had been sleeping with a criminal. A drug dealer. Someone violent enough to have that kind of record. For 8 months. While I thought we were happy. Mr. Harrison, where were you Monday morning between 2 and 6 a.m.? Home. Asleep. With my son. They verified my alibi. Called Sandra, apparently, who confirmed she'd seen my truck in the driveway when she left for her early shift at the hospital. They checked my phone's location data. Everything confirmed what I'd said. You can go, Mr. Harrison. But we'd advise you not to go home tonight. We don't know if the affair was connected to the attack on Derek Mitchell. You could be in danger. Your son could be in danger. I drove straight home anyway. My hands shook on the steering wheel the entire 15 minutes. Every red light felt like an eternity. I kept seeing that video. Jennifer's face. Her body. With him. 3 weeks ago. How many times since then? How many times before? Sandra was standing on her porch when I pulled up. She must have seen something in my face because she didn't ask questions. Just went inside and got Ethan. Marcus, what's wrong? You look terrible. I need Ethan. Can you bring him please? My son came out confused. 11 years old. Backpack slung over one shoulder. Dad? Why are you home early? Buddy, we're going to Grandma and Grandpa's house tonight. Why? What's happening? I couldn't answer him. Not yet. Not here. I rushed inside, moving on autopilot. Packed clothes for both of us. His laptop for schoolwork. Grabbed the .38 from the bedroom safe my father had given me years ago. My hands shook as I loaded it. Ethan watched from the doorway, scared. Dad, what's happening? I'll explain in the car. The drive to my parents' house was 45 minutes of hell. I tried calling Jennifer. Straight to voicemail. Again. Straight to voicemail. Again. 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 Every time, that cheerful message in her voice. Hi, you've reached Jennifer. Leave a message and I'll call you back. Such a normal message. Such a lie. Everything was a lie. Dad, you're scaring me. I know, buddy. I'm sorry. We'll talk when we get to Grandma's. Where's Mom? I don't know. That was the truth. I had no idea where Jennifer was. The detective had said something as I was leaving. Something I'd barely registered in the chaos of discovering the affair. He'd said, your wife is at the hospital. With Derek Mitchell. At the hospital. With the man she'd been cheating with. The man who was beaten and burnt and might not survive. She was there. With him. While I had our son. I called Detective Morrison back. Where's my wife? There was a pause on the other end. Mr. Harrison, I need to correct something I told you earlier. What? Your wife isn't at the hospital with Derek Mitchell. She'd already checked herself into the psychiatric facility there. Earlier in the day. While Derek was still in surgery. She what? She checked herself into the psych ward, Mr. Harrison. This morning. Before we even contacted her about the investigation. He paused. Then added, I apologize for the misinformation earlier. We needed to verify your reaction was genuine. Police can lie during investigations if you're not under arrest. It's legal. But I'm telling you the truth now. I hung up. Jennifer had checked herself into a psych ward. The same day Derek was found beaten nearly to death. Which meant she knew. She knew something terrible had happened. And she ran. We arrived at my parents' house at 10:47 p.m. They were waiting up. My mom took one look at my face and knew. She didn't even ask. Just pulled me into a hug while I broke down completely. First time I'd cried since the police station. I told them everything. Every detail. My father's face went through shock, rage, and finally a cold protective fury I'd rarely seen. Eventually Mom put Ethan to bed in the guest room. He was confused and scared, but exhausted enough to fall asleep quickly. I sat on the bed beside him. Gun on the nightstand. And I couldn't stop my brain from replaying that video. Morning came. I hadn't slept. 6:30 a.m., my phone rang. Detective Morrison. Mr. Harrison, I wanted to update you. We're investigating the attack on Derek Mitchell. We believe it was targeted. Possibly by a family member of one of his other affair partners. We don't think you or your son are in danger. That's it? That's why you called? No. I also wanted to let you know, we've confirmed Derek Mitchell has been dealing prescription opioids to employees at your wife's hotel. We found evidence he'd been supplying to multiple people, including your wife. This may be relevant to your situation. Prescription opioids. The words hung there. You're saying my wife is a drug addict? I'm saying we found evidence of purchases and communications that suggest she was buying from him. I thought you should know. After he hung up, I sat there processing. An affair. Drug dealing. A criminal with gang ties. My wife in a psych ward. And somewhere in all of this was my son, who had no idea his world was about to completely shatter. I called my late uncle's law firm at 7 a.m. Uncle Thomas had been the founding partner before he died 6 months ago. Left the firm to his partners. One of them, Harrison Mitchell, no relation to Derek Mitchell, just an unfortunate coincidence, had been Thomas's best friend. Was Ethan's godfather. Marcus? What's wrong? I explained everything. Every detail. The police interrogation. The video. The criminal record. The psych ward. When I finished, Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Don't say another word on the phone. I'm coming to you. Where are you? He arrived by 2 p.m. with a junior partner. They spread documents across my parents' dining room table. Legal papers. Forms. The prenup. Marcus, do you remember the prenup your uncle made you sign before you married Jennifer? I did. Vaguely. It had seemed unnecessary at the time. Jennifer and I loved each other. We were going to be together forever. Why did we need a prenup? Your uncle wrote this prenup himself, Harrison said. And Marcus, it's a thing of beauty. Especially the adultery clause. He showed me. The language was clear. If either party committed adultery during the marriage, proven with evidence, they forfeited all rights to spousal support. All assets reverted to whoever accrued them. Clean separation. The house you live in, that was a gift from your uncle to you before the marriage. It's solely in your name. Your vehicles, registered individually. You never mixed finances, per your uncle's advice. You have separate accounts, just a joint household account. Jennifer has access to nothing except what she brought into the marriage. So she gets nothing? When we prove the adultery. Correct. She gets nothing. Harrison pulled out more papers. We're filing emergency custody orders today. Protective orders for you, Ethan, and your parents. Court date will be set for 60 days out. Tomorrow morning, when Jennifer is discharged from the psychiatric hospital, police will serve her with these orders. How do you know when she's being discharged? Our investigator checked. She's being released tomorrow at 9 a.m. Everything moved fast after that. By 5 p.m., all the orders were filed. My uncle's law firm, the entire firm, had mobilized on my behalf. They weren't just representing me. They were going to war. That night, I had to tell Ethan something. I couldn't keep avoiding it. We sat in the guest room at my parents' house. Just him and me. Buddy, I need to tell you something. It's going to be hard to hear. He looked at me with those big 11-year-old eyes. Scared but trying to be brave. Mom and I are separating. She did something that broke our marriage. You're going to stay with me. Live with me. I promise you that. The words I expected were, why, or what happened? But that's not what came out of my son's mouth. His very first words were, please don't let mommy take me away. I froze. What? Buddy, why would you say that? And then it came pouring out. Jennifer had been emotionally abusing him. For as long as he could remember. When I wasn't around, she would leave him. Alone for hours. Sometimes overnight when I traveled for work. She would lock him in his room. Tell him not to make noise. Not to bother her. If he cried or asked for anything, she would scream at him. And she'd threatened him. Over and over. If you tell Daddy, I'll take you away. You'll never see him again. He doesn't really love you anyway. I'm the only one who cares about you. My son had been living in fear. In my house. While I thought everything was fine. While I went to work and came home and kissed my wife and played with my son and never noticed the terror underneath. I held him while he cried. And I realized something worse than the affair, worse than the drugs, worse than any of it. I'd failed at the one job that mattered. Protecting him. I called Harrison immediately. Told him what Ethan said. Harrison's voice went cold. This changes everything, Marcus. This isn't just divorce. This is child endangerment. Emotional abuse. We're amending our emergency filing right now. Tonight. 2 days later, Jennifer's brother called me. He was a close friend of mine. Had been for years. His voice shook. Marcus, they served her this morning. When she left the psych hospital. She didn't take it well. I don't care. I know. But Marcus, I need you to know something. I'm on your side. Whatever happens. Mom and Dad too. We all are. What Jennifer did, we don't recognize her anymore. That afternoon, Jennifer's parents called. Asked if they could come see us. I agreed but told them Jennifer couldn't come anywhere near me or Ethan. We wouldn't bring her, Robert said. Jennifer's father. Retired military. Stern man I'd always been slightly intimidated by. She's staying with us now. But Marcus, we need to see you and Ethan. Please. They arrived that evening. The moment they walked through the door, Patricia started crying. Couldn't stop. Robert's face was devastated. Aged 10 years in 2 days. They hugged me. Hugged Ethan. And Robert kept saying, that girl. I don't know that girl anymore. We didn't raise her to do this. That girl. Not our daughter. Not Jennifer. That girl. You're still our son, Robert told me. No matter what happens with the divorce. You're still our son. Ethan is still our grandson. Nothing changes that. Patricia couldn't speak through the tears. She just held Ethan and cried. Eventually she managed. I knew something was wrong. I should have said something. I should have helped. We cried together. All of us. And I realized, Jennifer hadn't just destroyed our marriage. She destroyed her relationship with her entire family. They were choosing me. Choosing Ethan. Choosing to stand against their own daughter because what she'd done was unforgivable. Over the next weeks, the law firm's investigators started piecing together the full picture. Jennifer's affair had been an open secret at her hotel. At least 12 coworkers knew. Some had actively helped her cover it up. Told me she was at events when she was actually with Derek. The investigator found Jennifer's work computer search history before the IT department wiped it. She'd been researching divorce attorneys for 6 months. Reading articles about how to prove husband is unfit parent and getting full custody after affair. She'd even filed an HR complaint against me 4 months ago, claiming I showed up at her workplace unannounced and aggressive. That complaint had been filed the day I brought her favorite sandwich because she'd texted saying she forgot lunch. She'd turned that act of love into a weapon against me. Derek Mitchell's criminal record was worse than the police initially told me. 23 arrests since age 16. Drug trafficking. Multiple assaults. Gang affiliations with Los Diablos. Currently on parole from a 2-year sentence. If he survived the attack, he'd be going right back to prison for parole violation. For weeks after I found out, we had our first court hearing for the emergency protective orders. I arrived with Harrison and Ethan. The courtroom was mostly empty. Just us. The judge. A bailiff. A court reporter. The judge called Jennifer's name. No response. Her lawyer called in. Your Honor, my client is indisposed. We request a continuance. The judge was not pleased. Where is your client? She's having medical difficulties, Your Honor. She was properly served 2 weeks ago with this hearing date. We're proceeding. The judge reviewed our emergency filings. Reviewed Ethan's statement to Child Services. Then looked at me. Mr. Harrison, will you allow supervised visitation? Ethan, sitting beside me, said quietly, no. The judge heard him. Young man, would you be willing to speak with me privately? Ethan looked at me. I nodded. Yes, ma'am. The judge, a stenographer, and a child welfare officer took Ethan into chambers. 10 minutes later, they emerged. Ethan looked lighter somehow. Like a weight had been lifted. The judge granted everything. Full temporary custody. Child support. Continuation of the protective order. She ordered psychological evaluations and therapy for Ethan. Mr. Harrison, the judge said, your son is very brave. Take care of him. He shouldn't have had to be brave. He's 11 years old. He should have been safe in his own home. But Jennifer had made him brave out of necessity. And that broke something in me I don't think will ever fully heal. The law firm kept digging. They found evidence that Derek had been dealing prescription opioids to multiple hotel employees. His attack wasn't random, it was targeted. Police believed a family member of one of Derek's other victims had beaten him. Someone whose wife or daughter had been caught in Derek's web of manipulation and drugs. Derek was still alive. Still in critical condition. If he survived, he'd face criminal charges. And all his affair partners, including Jennifer, would have to testify. Public testimony. Everyone would know. 8 weeks after I found out about the affair, we had a preliminary mediation hearing. Jennifer had fired her first lawyer, the one who didn't show to the emergency hearing. Now she had someone expensive. Someone good. Which made me wonder, who was paying for this? I walked into the mediator's office waiting room at 2:15 p.m. Jennifer was already there. I hadn't seen her since the night before I found out. Since before my entire world collapsed. She looked terrible. Even with the mask, I could see the dramatic weight loss. Maybe 25 pounds. Her face was gaunt. Pale. Gray. She used to be athletic. Could have passed for a model. Now she looked sick. Frail. Like she was dying. She didn't look at me. Not once. Just sat with her face down, hands folded on her lap. We were called into the mediation room. The mediator was an older woman. Professional. Stern but fair. We sat at opposite ends of a long table. Jennifer's expensive lawyer on her side. Harrison on mine. Jennifer's lawyer opened with demands. Visitation during divorce proceedings. Shared custody after finalization. Drop the protective orders. Then came the insane one. My client requests that she and Mr. Harrison cohabitate in the marital home until the divorce is finalized, to minimize disruption to their son. My head started pounding. After everything. After the affair, the drugs, the abuse. She wanted to live with me? In the same house? The audacity was breathtaking. The demands continued. Child support from me. Half of all assets. Her vehicle. Various items from the home. Then Jennifer's lawyer asked, now, regarding asset division, how should we handle discovery? Harrison got the shocked look on his face. Almost theatrical. I'm sorry, what division of assets? The lawyer looked confused. The marital assets division, of course. Harrison slid a document across the table. Read the prenup. I watched Jennifer's lawyer's face drain of color as she read the first page. She looked at Jennifer. Jennifer still wouldn't look up. Her shoulders tensed. What prenup? The prenup your client signed 12 years ago. Written by my late partner, Thomas Harrison. It's airtight. The lawyer read silently. Her face went from confused to shocked to angry. She looked at Jennifer. Mrs. Harrison, we need to speak privately. Immediately. But before they could leave, the lawyer asked one more question. Your Honor, we request a postponement of official mediation for 6 months. On what grounds? My client will be attending an inpatient rehabilitation facility for substance abuse during that time. The word hung in the air. Substance abuse. I'd heard suggestions of it. The investigator mentioning drug purchases. But hearing it stated officially made it real. Pause here for a second. I just found out my wife had a drug addiction. That she'd been trading sex for pills. That everything I thought I knew about my marriage was a lie. Comment below, if you were in my position, would you agree to delay the divorce so she could go to rehab? Comment 1 if yes, comment 2 if no. Because what I decided next changed everything. Harrison glanced at me. I shook my head slightly. We'd discuss it. We'll respond within 48 hours, Harrison said. The mediator asked if there was anything else. Jennifer spoke for the first time. Her voice was so quiet I barely heard it. Can I give Marcus a letter? Everyone stopped. Her lawyer started to object. Mrs. Harrison, we discussed this wasn't. Please. Just a letter. She pulled an envelope from her purse. Handed it to the mediator. The mediator passed it to me. I held that envelope. Felt the weight of several pages inside. Harrison leaned over and whispered, don't read it here. Could be manipulation. Could be genuine. Read it at home with clear head. But I could feel Jennifer's eyes on me for the first time since she walked in. And I needed to know what she'd written. That night at my parents' house, after Ethan was asleep, I opened the letter. It started with every excuse cheaters make. I love you. I love our family. I know I mistreated Ethan and I hate myself. But then it got real. 2 years ago, after my hysterectomy, I was prescribed OxyContin for pain management. When the prescription ended after 30 days, I still needed it. The pain was mental by then, not physical, but I couldn't function without it. I started buying pills from people at work. Derek Mitchell became my main supplier. When I ran out of money, he offered a trade. Sex for pills. I was desperate. I told myself it didn't mean anything. He was just a fix. Just a way to feel normal. But it became a pattern I couldn't escape. I hid it from you because I was terrified you'd make me stop, and I couldn't feel right without the medication anymore. I hate myself for what I've done. To you. To Ethan. To us. I'm checking into rehab tomorrow. I want to get better. For our family. Please give me 6 months to prove I want this. I called Harrison at 11:47 p.m. Woke him up. I read the letter. He was quiet. And? It's a confession. Drug addiction. Prostitution for drugs. While raising our child. Does this help us? Harrison laughed. Not happy laughter. Dark laughter. Marcus, she just guaranteed you full custody. In writing. Yes. It helps us. We agreed to the 6-month rehab postponement. Not because I wanted to give her another chance. But because Harrison explained, it actually benefits us. Shows we're reasonable. And in 6 months, she'll either be clean, proving she was unfit during the marriage, or she'll have failed, proving she's still unfit. Either way, we win. 6 months passed. Jennifer entered inpatient rehab. No contact with me or Ethan during treatment. The court-ordered progress reports came monthly. Month 1, patient struggling with acceptance. Blaming external factors. Month 2, beginning to acknowledge role in addiction. Month 3, significant breakthrough. Accepting responsibility. Month 4, requesting family therapy sessions. Wants to make amends. Month 5, ready for supervised contact. Month 6, completed program. Discharged with outpatient plan. During those months, Ethan and I both started therapy. He went twice a week initially, then weekly. I taught him self-reliance skills. How to memorize important phone numbers. How to read addresses. How to ask strangers for help if he felt unsafe. Building his confidence. His voice. His power. The change was remarkable. His anxiety decreased. He made friends. Joined activities Jennifer had always discouraged. Started speaking up. Laughing more. Being a kid instead of a scared, silent shadow. The court appointed a custody evaluator. Dr. Sarah Mitchell. Child psychologist with 20 years experience. She spent 3 hours at my house. Toured every room. Saw Ethan's space, his decorations, his books, his safe place. She interviewed him alone for an hour. Interviewed me for 2 hours. She also interviewed Jennifer at the outpatient facility. I saw the preliminary notes. Jennifer spent most of the interview discussing her recovery journey. Her transformation. How she'd changed. But when Dr. Mitchell asked about Ethan's documented nightmares, Jennifer said, I didn't know he was having nightmares. 8 months of nightmares. And she didn't know. Because she'd never asked. Never checked on him. Never been the mother he needed. Dr. Mitchell's recommendation came via email. 3 pages. By page 2, I was crying with relief. Primary custody with father. Supervised visitation with mother. Gradual transition to unsupervised only if sobriety maintained and parenting classes completed. Child has expressed clear preference. Child shows trauma responses when discussing mother. Child's welfare must be priority over mother's recovery timeline. Jennifer tried to get Dr. Mitchell removed from the case. Claimed bias. The judge denied it. 8 months after that police interrogation changed my life, we had our final mediation. Jennifer showed up looking healthier. She'd gained some weight back. Had color in her face. Looked more like the woman I'd married. But something in her eyes was hollow. Different. Changed. She tried to make eye contact with me. I looked away. Couldn't do it. Couldn't see her and not remember that video. That confession. Everything she destroyed. Her lawyer presented her case. 6 months sober. Completed treatment. Requesting gradual reintroduction to her son's life. Supervised visitation with the goal of shared custody in 1 year. Ethan's therapist testified. He's made significant progress. His anxiety has decreased. His confidence has grown. However, he still experiences trauma responses when discussing his mother. He's not ready for unsupervised contact. Supervised visitation for minimum 1 year before considering expansion. The judge reviewed everything. Emergency custody orders. Ethan's statements. Jennifer's rehab completion. The custody evaluator's recommendation. The prenup. The confession letter. Derek Mitchell had survived his attack. He was currently in prison for parole violation. He'd testified at his own hearing. All his affair partners, including Jennifer, had to testify publicly. Local news covered it. Jennifer's humiliation was complete. The judge made her ruling. Full legal and physical custody to me. Supervised visitation for Jennifer, 2 hours every other Saturday at a family services center. She had to maintain sobriety. Random drug testing. Parenting classes. We'd revisit in 1 year for possible expansion. It was over. 8 months of hell. And I'd won everything. Full custody. The house. All assets. Jennifer got 2 hours every other Saturday under supervision. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt tired. Over the next months, Jennifer maintained her sobriety. She attended every supervised visitation. Wrote weekly letters to Ethan that his therapist screened. Slowly, painfully, Ethan started to warm to her. At the first visit, he barely spoke. By the 8th, he laughed at something she said. By the 10th, he brought a drawing to show her. After 12 months, Ethan told his therapist, "I don't hate her anymore. But I don't want to live with her." That's where we are now. Jennifer lives in an apartment near the visitation center. She works as an event coordinator again, different hotel. She's been sober for over a year. Really sober. Really changed. And watching her get better is harder than watching her fall apart. Because it makes me wonder, could we have avoided all this? Could I have seen it sooner? Helped her before it destroyed everything? My therapist says no. That addiction and betrayal were her choices. That I can't take responsibility for her actions. That I did everything right by protecting Ethan first. But some nights I lie awake and think about that letter. About a woman so desperate for pills that she traded her marriage, her son, her entire life. And I feel anger and pity and confusion all at once. Derek Mitchell is serving 8 years. He'll be out eventually. We'll probably go right back to dealing. People like him don't change. But Jennifer? She's changing. I see it. Ethan sees it. And that's why he's slowly letting her back in. Not into our home. Not into his daily life. But into the supervised space where she can be his mother in limited, controlled doses. Last week, I watched through the window at the visitation center. Saw Ethan show Jennifer his report card. All A's and B's. She cried. Hugged him. And Ethan let her. He'll never forget what she did. Neither will I. But maybe someday he'll forgive her. Maybe someday the supervised visits will become unsupervised. Maybe someday she'll earn back more than 2 hours every other Saturday. That's not for me to decide. That's for Ethan and his therapist and the courts. My job is to keep him safe. To be the parent he can count on. To build a life where he knows he's loved and protected and never has to be scared again. People ask if I regret how it ended. I don't. Jennifer made choices that destroyed our family. The addiction doesn't excuse the affair. Doesn't excuse the abuse. Doesn't excuse any of it. But watching her recover, truly recover, gave Ethan something important. It showed him that people can change. That rock bottom isn't always the end. That sometimes the worst moments lead to genuine transformation. We're building a new life now. Ethan and me. My parents are part of it. Jennifer's parents are part of it. Even Jennifer, in her limited, supervised way, is part of it. It's not the life I thought I'd have. Not the family I thought I was building when I married Jennifer 12 years ago. But it's real. It's honest. It's safe. And after 8 months of lies and drugs and police interrogations and custody battles, safe is all that matters. That's my story. Found out about my wife's affair from police. Discovered her drug addiction through a confession letter. Won full custody through a prenup my dead uncle wrote to protect me. And now I'm raising my son alone while his mother rebuilds herself 2 hours at a time. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. Hit that like button if this resonated with you. Subscribe for more real stories about surviving the unthinkable. And comment below, have you ever had to choose between giving someone a second chance and protecting someone you love? Because I'm still not sure there's a right answer to that question. I just know I made the only choice I could live with. Take care of each other out there.